grandma situation. Watch the original video, know what I'm talking about. Is this thing on, by the way? Like, can you guys hear me? Hold on, but the microphone might have issues. Usually if I touch the cable, it gets angry, so hold on a bit. Chotomate. I need to open the chat. Testing. 1, 2, 3. I think it's good though. But you never know until you see the people raging in the chat. Alright. So, regarding the grandmama issue, I genuinely thought about it, and I think the problem is not whether or not you want to watch over the grandchild, because, you know, you can make the argument that, okay, well, you had your children, you did your job, you know, maybe you're old, maybe you're sick, you don't feel like watching over grand. That's fine. The problem is asking money from family. Like, I think this is the worst thing you can do. If a family member asks you for something, usually you either say yes and you do it for free, or you say no and you don't do it. Asking, especially close family members, right? Like when you ask a close family member for money, it's not the best thing, right? Like, you wouldn't want it if that family member like it asks you for money, would you? Right? So, like, for instance, you ask your father for something and your father demands money from you. It's something that's not okay. It's not the worst thing you can do, but it's not culturally okay, and it creates arguments. Let's put it like that, right? Like when it's about family, especially like close kin, when we're talking about mother, father, son, daughter, grandmother, I don't think it's okay to, like, imagine if your grandma is sick, right? And you're like, yeah, sure, grandma, I'm going to come to take care of you, but I expect financial compensation for my time. I think, like, it could be, why would the daughter be an asshole, though? I don't see why the daughter is an asshole. So just for those of you who haven't watched the main video, it's about a woman which has a job, and she can't take care of her kids, so she asked the grandmother, like her mother, to help her raise him. And the grandmother said that she's not going to look after the grandchild unless she's being paid an hourly wage. And I think that to be not disrespectful, but it's a bad thing to do, basically. It's a bad thing to do. And again, like, if you want to treat your family members like that, don't be shocked when they're going to treat you like that as well. Because imagine if the grandma is sick, right? And she needs medication, and you're like, well, grandma, you know, I can pay you for your medication, but what are you going to do for me in exchange, huh? Like, how are you going to pay off the debt? If you're going to behave like that, don't be shocked when people behave like that to you in return, is what my... Yeah, it's distasteful. She's using grandma's labor to pay off for her student loans. You know, like, the thing with the student loans, they're very predatory in a way. Most people who do them are very young as well. So, it is what it is. I do blame the universities a lot for this. It is the culture. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, do you think the grandma didn't push her daughter to go to university? I mean, isn't this the mentality that most people have to face with? It's like, go to university to avoid doing the menial jobs or the menial labor. So in a way, it's grandma's fault. I mean, seriously, like, if I were to tell my wife, hey, you know, like, our child, he should become a carpenter. Like, my wife will think I'm crazy. She will think that I'm insane. Like, what do you mean he's going to become a carpenter? No, he's going to go to university. He's going to become a doctor. Whether he likes it or not. Yes, the whole state, monkey. Elon Musk is going to sue the whole state. So we're going to be talking about that as well. I find it interesting to see Elon Musk's, I guess, like, war with the ADL. It is very omoshiroi. And it's omoshiroi because people are looking into the ADL. And as I made another video, they're noticing all sorts of bizarre stuff on the ADL's website, right? Like, for example, Pepe the Frog is racist. The OK sign is racist. I don't think they think that milk is racist. I think like that may be the Southern poverty law. So it's hard to tell at this point. But you have like all of these things that are like clearly not racist, but the ADL considers them so. And as I mentioned, the main issue, and I know how these things are done, it's when you use definitions, like the researchers on the left do this all the time in academia, like all the freaking time. So feminists would do this, right? Like they will say, rape and sexual abuse, right? So sexual abuse would mean someone wolf whistling or someone dog whistling, right? Sorry, wolf calling, cat calling, whatever the fuck they call it, right? Like if you go on the street and you say, "Hey, señorita, how's it going?" Like that is a case of rape or sexual abuse. Like that's how they frame it, right? So they will put in the same category. They will put something that's, "Hey, señorita, how's it going?" with actual rape. I mean, don't get me wrong. It is obviously that neither of these things should be socially acceptable, but like one poses a danger to society far greater than another. Like if your mother comes home and she says like, "Okay, so I went past this guy and he said, 'Hey, señorita.'" Okay, like, "Mom, I understand you had a bad day, maybe go on a different street next time." But like if your mom comes home and says she's got raped, like that's a family drama, that's right. But like what feminists do is they put all of these together so that a case of "Hey, señorita" can be equaled with a case of rape. So when you see that there have been like 1 out of 5 women have been raped or sexually most people will think that 1 out of 5 women are raped. But in reality, when you look at their research, it has been inflated. Why? Because they changed the definition. Like they get to set the definitions that they use in order to try to manipulate the public, thinking that the press is going to report on the study and it's going to create an alarmist point of view. Right? This is literally what the ADL is doing, right? So like when they say that Pepe the Frog is racist, when they go like, "All right, well, let's see hate incidents on Twitter." And then they look at Pepe the Frogs and it's like, okay, 1 Pepe, 2 Pepe, 3 Pepe, 4. Oh, these are 5 incidents of hatred, right? So this is why you don't see hateful stuff on Twitter, and they can't give example of hateful stuff on Twitter, but like independent researchers have found out. And this is how they found out, right? Like they went to the ADL website, they looked at what constitutes incidents of hate, and then most people, when they will say like, "We found 10 incidents of hate on Twitter," they will think like 10 swastikas. But the reality can be 10 Pepe the Frogs, 10 OK signs, right? Like, maybe some of them are genuine incidents of hate, but like, you don't know. I seen this, I think like, they used to do this with statistics in the UK. So statistics in the UK would be like a hate crime against Jewish people, right? And they would show in the newspaper maybe like a Jewish person that got beaten, like a genuine hate crime, like something that legit, like you look at it and you can't deny it. Okay, it happened, it's horrible. But then like when you actually read the article, like you'd see that if someone manages to paint graffiti on a wall, right? So like he goes on a building and paints graffiti or something, and that's another hate crime. And I'm thinking like, yeah, but like the severity, like the social damage between beating someone and painting graffiti on a wall is completely different. Like they should have separate categories for these things, right? But like that, this is the thing, like they always combine them in order to create a much broader problem, to create the moral panic, which then justifies censorship, so that's the reason, right? Because like most people are like, "Oh, why does the ADL have this and that?" So they know what they're doing. Like it's not done like someone that clearly doesn't understand the internet, clearly doesn't know what's going on, and he's like thinking, "Oh, well, Pepe the Frog must be anti-Semitic." Pepe the Frog is now being used on the left. Like go on a Vosh stream and see how many Pepes he's had. Like it's ridiculous. But anyway, right? So with that out of the way, let's talk about Elon Musk. Let me show you. Hold on. Let me bring The one where he is suing California-nya. Right, so this is actually really good. This is why I like Elon Musk, because he's upsetting people. I don't think he's great. Like, he doesn't improve my life, but he makes the life of people that try to make my life worse, he makes their life miserable as well. So, you know, like somewhere in the cosmic balance of the universe, things are equaling out, so I'm happy because of it. Forbes magazine, Elon Musk sues California-nya over content moderation legislation. I wouldn't have seen Twitter ever do this under Jack Dorsey, right? So Elon Musk is having enough, and I think he's going to win this because free speech, like unironically. So the lawsuit is filed under Sacramento Federal Court, alleges that California-nya law violates the company's First Amendment rights because it compels companies like Twitter to engage in speech against their will and interferes with the constitutionally protected editorial judgments of the company. It says that it does so by pressuring companies as Twitter to remove, demonetize, or deprioritize constitutionally protected speech that the state deems undesirable or harmful, and places an unjustified and undue burden on social media companies like Twitter. I would like to point out several things here. This is exactly what I've been discussing. Like in the past, many of you probably don't remember, but there used to be a time when you could go on the internet and you could say whatever the fuck you wanted. Like literally, like with these hands, you go click-clack on the keyboard and you can make any combinations of keys you wanted, and it was fine, right? Like the police actually had criminals to catch. It actually had something to do rather than fuck with you. Nowadays, that's not the case, right? Like nowadays, imagine a plump, middle-aged woman with no social life, covered in cat piss, and that lady is on the terms of service chair at a social media company deciding what you are and aren't allowed to see, interact with, right? Because you aren't a grown adult. Like, you are not capable of making your smart decisions, and you need that lady in your life. You need her to keep you safe. And this is how the internet is now. We see how this has been normalized. Because up until now, people were saying, well, it's a private company. It can do whatever it wants. If the private company wants to censor, then the private company should censor, right? And I was saying, like, no, this normalizes behavior. And eventually, most people will think that this is okay. And when enough people think that this is okay, they will try to pass legislation. And when it passes legislation, it actually influences the law, right? So you can go to prison, you can go to jail, you can pay a fine. In this case, I assume it's just paying a fine, right? So like they want to fine corporations that do not toe the line from California-nya. And on top of that, like if I were to create now a social media company, let's say I want to create the new Twitter. I need to have like this heavy enforcement policies or the government finds my ass, right? And it's impossible, it literally is impossible to monitor everyone's speech on a platform that has 100,000 people, let alone 1 million, right? So what the government does then, you have hate speech on your platform, they don't care. You know, you're playing ball, you're doing what they're saying, they don't see any problem. You happen to upset them, oh, then they put you under the microscope. This is what happened with Parler. Like they accused Parler of hate speech and all this shit, they shut it down. But Facebook, which was live streaming real murders, and it was like having like almost every single day it was having problems and issues, that's fine. You know, go at it. Why? Because they were playing ball. So this is like what it is. It's like raying the private companies where everyone is talking under the control of the government. Holy shit, American Outlier. I don't remember the last time I saw a super chat. Unironically. Like, thank you so much. Hi V, I hope you're doing great. Well, I am doing great. Like, I got $100 super chat. Are you crazy? Great topic because mom asks me for money. I understand if something comes up, but she is irresponsible. And at one point was asking me every payday. I shut that crap down, but imagine being mad at someone for not giving you their money, their work for which she did. Yeah, like, no, seriously, I think you're right because you shouldn't ask money from family members. Like there may be a case where you borrow money from someone, like you know, if let's say my dad needs money, like I can borrow money to him, like he's in a financial pickle. Let's say his pension comes up in like 1 month, sorry, like 1 week, and his washing machine broke, so he didn't expect that. He needs money now to fix it. I'm like, fine. But like usually you borrow money. I personally don't ask money from other family members either. If I have to, I borrow. I always pay back. If they say they don't want it, like I insist, and if like they keep insisting, like no, then fine. But like usually money ruins relationships, right? So like if you have a family member, like all right, chat, listen up. I'll tell you how to deal with this shit. If you have a family member that needs money, ask them for what, right? If it's something reasonable, just pay for that. So in the case of the father with the washing machine, right? Like you have your dad, his washing machine broke, and you gotta, he's gotta fix it. What you wanna do is you hire the guy to fix the washing machine and you pay the guy. Or you buy another washing machine for your dad. Never give him cash. Ever. I know this sounds heartless and cruel, but like I have seen so many relationships being destroyed due to this. Like there is a YouTuber which had his family destroyed live on air. He had a father which, through no fault of his own, lost his job. Okay, he started asking money from his son. I think it's called Live YouTube Reel or something like that. I forgot the name of the channel. But he basically talks about it, right? And he said that at first he was starting to give his dad a small amount of money. And then as time moves on, dad asks for more money and more money. And if you wouldn't give money to his father on time, the father would start guilt-tripping him. He would threaten him that he would disinherit him. Like, all nasty shit. The relationship at that point was ruined. Like, you can't recover from that. So never do business with your family. Never give money to your family. If you have to give money to your family, buy them the stuff they need, right? Like, let's say your father lost his job and he's got nothing. Like, okay, take him to a restaurant and give him like a meal a day. Take him to one of those cheap restaurants, like, so that you can take him for every single day for 30 days or whatever. Or just buy him grocery shopping. Like, do not give money in hand to family members. Do not do this. Because, like, first of all, there's also the thing that when someone doesn't have money, they are more inclined and motivated to find a job. When you give money to someone, they get used to it. They think it belongs to them. So when you stop paying, they get vindictive. Why is his father my mom? Well, it's just like example that I thought about, but I think it's a fair advice. I remember, it actually happened on a stream. Sometimes they have the money, they don't want to spend theirs. I mean, yeah, dude, like I have seen so many families being ruined over money. It's unreal. Usually, a family gets ruined when a rich person dies and you're talking about inheritance. Like, that usually gets brother against brother, father against son. Like, oh my fucking god. If American Outlier dies tomorrow, like, I do not want to know what's happening in his family. Like, it's going to be, people that have been friendly with each other for a lifetime and they like each other, like, you're going to see them at each other's throats over the fortune. And it's going to be like, well, actually, I was in his life a lot more than you, and I cared about him a lot more than he would have definitely left his fortune for me. But it can happen even when the person is alive, right? So, like, what I noticed, and this happens all the fucking time, like, you try to help out a family member, and maybe you help them out for 3 fucking years. And then at one point, you're like, okay, enough. For whatever reason, like maybe you just don't have money, and you say enough. And they will behave like you are an ungrateful child, that you never cared about them, that you never respected them. No, just do not give money to family members. It's fine to give them like once, but do not give them the second time. Do not make it a habit, basically. I'm not saying abandoning them either. Right? Just pay for what they need. Sometimes they have money, they just don't want to spend their... Oh, that's like the worst possibility. I have seen that happening. It's just, ugh. You just described the entire welfare system, V. Yeah. Yeah. Dude, it's even with animals. Like, I had a pigeon. And I was giving food to the pigeon. The next day there were 4 pigeons. The next day there were 6. But like, it can also happen with dogs. Like, if you give a dog food, right, and they form a pack around your block, and at one point you stop giving them food, they become aggressive. It is what it is. I think that when you give once, they're grateful. When you give all the time, they become used to it. And if you don't give it, they become vindictive. I had money issue recently, but both with family members, but someone who kept worrying for donations. Not with family members. Yeah, I see. It is what it is. It's like people getting used to the fact, right? Like, they're taking you for granted. And that's the worst thing that can happen, right? Because when you give money to someone, you expect some level of gratitude. But if they take you for granted and they expect that you're giving them, it stops being gratitude and you start feeling like a slave. Like, you have to give them, because otherwise they get upset, they get mad, they gaslight you, they guilt trip you. Like, I have seen really bad stuff. So, never do business with family, never do business with, never give money to family, never borrow money from family, that type of shit. It just through his relations. Anyway, right, so, yeah, they tell all their friends, I know. Because, like, the thing is, like, when they tell the story, they never tell the actual story. They will frame it in a way to make you the villain. And will be like, look what an ungrateful child I have. He is so wealthy, he is so rich, and he never gives me money. I'm not going to mention that he has been giving me money for the last 5 months. He's just not giving me now. So because of that, I'm going to make sure to tarnish his name everywhere. V was the grandma with 30 pigeons eating from him. Oh, God. Anyway, right, back to Elon Musk. Sorry for this. It's just something that I had to talk about because American Outlier definitely had a point. So yeah, like the Californian government is trying to pressure social media companies to do what they must. And I think like they're doing this especially because of Twitter. Because up until now, they seem to have had a firm grasp and control over the companies that operate. They would use NGOs and honestly, like if you look at the history, ADL partnered with another group called No Money for Hate or something like that. And that's what actually brought all the social media companies to heel. And they didn't need to make legislations, right? Because like the government doesn't want to seem that it's involved. Like they wanted the story, my private company can do whatever it wants. And that's how they wanted to push it. But like the pandemic, as well as Elon Musk buying Twitter, exposed all of this scam. So now you kind of know who's pulling the strings. Like Elon Musk, unironically, I think that he wants free speech on Twitter. But he also wants to be able to pay for Twitter because it's incredibly expensive. So he has to go through all these loopholes. Now they're firing him with they're fighting legislation at him. They're doing their entire darnest in order to make sure that they're going to make so that Twitter is censored to the same way that it used to be. And by the way, Twitter is quite censorious now. But I think it's censorious regarding the way you express yourself. Like, you're not allowed to use slurs, you're not allowed to use anti-Semitism. But like, for political opinions, I haven't seen almost anyone getting censored. Right? So like before, on previous Twitter, you could get away with edgy jokes, you could get away with spicy memes. But they would ban you for political takes. Like if you said something about pronouns and you disagreed, or, you know, if you were, I think like the gays versus groomers, it was called, right? Like there was this popular Twitter account that got shut down. So like the previous Twitter would allow more hate speech, basically, as long as it wasn't political. So, like, if you were just insulting someone for non-political reasons, if I was having a spat with American Outlier, and I would say something kind of racist towards him, but, like, not overtly so, like maybe a racist joke or something like that, previous Twitter would have allowed it. But if I were to say a political statement, especially, like, something against COVID or vaccines or shit like that, elections, immediately banned. Now it's the other way around, right? Like now if I have a spat with American Outlier on Twitter and I say even like the most casual joke that can be interpreted as racism, I get banned. But I can say pretty much whatever political stuff I want if I frame it correctly. So as long as I don't use any jokes, any metaphors, anything that can be interpreted as hate speech, I'm fine. And I can express myself however I want. So I feel like that's the difference between old Twitter and new Twitter. And this is what upsets them, because it's not about hate speech. Like, that's the entire thing. It's not about hate speech. They don't give a shit. They care about political opinion. Always had. Like, the hate speech is just like a reason to censor certain political topics. They don't genuinely care if me and American Outlier are having a go at each other on Twitter. You don't understand. This woman is scummy. When my aunt and uncle helped me out when I growing up, she hated it. Why? Because she wanted that power of I did it for you. Basically, she wanted that you owe me mentality hanging around your head. Yeah, there's many people like that, unfortunately, which I mean, it's a type of abuse, right? It's especially in a relationship, it's usually the type of abuse that men give to women, actually. It's rare to see a woman having this type of talking point. Like, women usually do different types of abuses than men. Like, men are the ones that will say, yeah, I helped you out back then, and now you're ungrateful, blah 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 blah. Like, this is usually what a father tells to a son. It's not something that a mother tells to a son. But it can happen, obviously. It's just like a general rule of thumb. It's not like something exclusionary. Like, seeing a woman do it is just bizarre to me. But I guess, like, I really studied abuses. I do not know why, but I was so passionate in reading psychology about how people abuse each other's, how masses of people can be manipulated and stuff. It's called the psychology of the masses, and you can look at exactly how abuse is done, and it's so funny when you finally recognize it on television. And it's also interesting, like, to know how abuse happens within a family, like a couple, because then you can recognize it when it's being done to you. So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting study. Thank you, Go37, for the $5. Like, let me show you a type of I guess manipulation. This is not really abuse that the media is doing. So hold on. Let me just scroll down. Okay, I don't have it. I'll just have to tell it to you from my memory. So I'm pretty sure like everyone remembers this. Basically, there were like two accusations that are happening right now. One is with Obama, and the other one is with Donald Trump. So if you have watched Tucker Carlson's latest interview, there's this guy which claims that he had homosexual relationships with Barack Obama back in the day, and he also claims that they did drugs together. Now, this guy apparently was willing to have these things said under oath, to take a lie detector. There's certain like correlation with what he claims based on Obama's own admissions, as well as people from within him, right? So the media treats this as purely conspiracy theory. Like, if you try to talk about this in any way, shape, or form, you're a conspiracy theorist, and the media will try to shut you up. So okay, fine. Like that's number one. Number two is what's happening with Trump. So there's this lady, I forgot her name, claims that Trump abused her, raped her in a I think it's like a changing room inside of a clothing store, like something bizarre like that. Trump claims that he doesn't know her. There's no evidence that these two have ever met. She doesn't remember even what season this happened. There's like literally no evidence. The media just constantly talks about it, non-stop. Like they talked about this ad nauseum. And this is how you manipulate the public, right? Like, there's two things. Number one, when you talk about the subject nonstop, it makes the subject look a lot bigger than it actually is, right? So if you talk about something that's really important, like let's say an earthquake of terrible magnitude, you only talk about it one day on the news, the public thinks it's not a big deal. But if you are to talk about like someone breaking a window, and you talk about it for like 7 days in a row, people will immediately think about like, oh, people who break windows are monsters, and why are we as a society allowing this to happen, and blah blah blah, right? So the intensity of the mainstream media talking about the point is very impactful. And the number two is like how many media channels talk about it. If one media channel talks about it, it looks like, oh, well, it's just their problem. If all the media channels talk about it, then it seems like it's a huge issue. Because it makes it seem like in the mind of the public, they believe that all these media channels are separate and they're competing with each other. So like if they're all talking about it, then it must be an important news story. Like this is what the public perceives in their subconscious. So this is like how the masses get manipulated. It's really interesting, honestly. I find this psychology of the masses to be very useful knowledge, especially when you deal with politics and stuff. Because again, like when the media talks about something, you need to ask yourself, why do they talk about it? What I mean by this is that think about how many crimes are happening in America right now. I mean, there's probably gang shootings, there's gang violence, there's drug use, like so many crimes, right? Why don't you hear about them on television? Why do they never talk about those? It's because they don't have any political thing. Like, it's not news anymore, right? Like, news would definitely be anything newsworthy. Like, don't you think, like, an example of gang violence is newsworthy? Like, of course it is. But, like, they don't want to talk about it because then people would start asking. It's like, well, who is responsible to clean up the streets? Oh, the mayor. Why is the mayor not doing anything? So that's the thing. I don't care if Obama is non-heterosexual. I care so many voters. It's not even about that. Like, Obama's sexuality doesn't play into this. It's just how the mainstream media reports one event versus another. Right? Like, this is what people should understand. I do not give a shit if Obama is straight or gay or bisexual, like, whatever. It's the way the mainstream media is responding when it's a person that they like versus a person that they don't like. I care that he had to lie and go to such lengths to keep it in. All politicians lie. Like, this is the thing. All politicians have secrets. There is no fucking way you can be a public person without having secrets. Especially if you're a public person, you need to present yourself as if you're spotless. How many of us are spotless? Like, legit question. If I were to look at your browsing internet history, what would I find? And the question is, like, if you were running for office and I had access to your internet history, could I ruin your campaign, yes or no? I already know the answer to that. I don't even give a shit about what you have to say. So, with that out of the way, every single politician is going to lie, right? Like, every single politician is going to try to hide things. That's normal. What's not normal is for the mainstream media to play partisanship. That's not normal. Anyway, yeah, Obama's personal chef should have been bigger news. Like, if this would happen to Trump, you would now have indictments, affidavits, so on and so forth. So, yeah. You can ruin my everything with just my public Steam profile. Oof. Katis. Anyway, right, can we go back to this now? We should go back to this. So anyway, the Assembly Bill 587 was signed into law in September of last year and required websites and online services that collect personally identifiable information about California-nya users to make its privacy policy publicly available. The lawsuit argues that while the state characterizes the law as a mere transparency measures, reviewed statements by the legislation authors and supporters demonstrate otherwise. You know what I find interesting? Why does the NSA doesn't need to have transparency measures? Like, why is it that you have social media profiles like Twitter and Facebook, which, okay, fine, like they should have transparency. But why can't we have transparency when it comes to the government? And not only that, for those of you who don't know, like this is absolutely hilarious. It's probably my news for tomorrow. Nissan, yes, the car manufacturer, they wanted to stop people from voting a legislation the right of repair, right? So the right of repair means that things should happen the same way they happened when your grandma was in diapers, which is like if your car breaks down, you take it to a repair guy, and the repair guy should be able to fix it. But modern cars, the way they are made in such a way that you have to go, like if you have a Nissan, the latest model, you have to take it to a Nissan authorized repair shop. And they make a lot of shit to make it next to impossible for you to repair it. Like, obviously, their software is being kept hidden so that, you know, not everyone can have access to it. In order to open a screw, you need, like, a specific screwdriver that only authorized mechanics can get, like, buying it from this. So, like, the government is trying to pass a legislation for that shit to stop. Right? Like, because, like, if you have a car and it breaks down, or you have an Xbox and it breaks down, you should be able to take it to any repair guy and have it repaired. Now, what Nissan and other car manufacturers have been doing is that they were promoting certain commercials, saying that if you do this, like if you take your car to any mechanic and not just a Nissan mechanic, well, the mechanic can actually collect data from you. And the commercial shows a young lady, which is in a car parking lot, and she's afraid because someone is coming to rape her. Like, that's literally the commercial and the vibe they're going with. And the idea is because she took her car to a repairman that wasn't authorized. That repairman took her information from her car, used it to track her down into this lonely parking lot so they can harm her, right? So, like, the idea is, like, do not sign the repair bill because bad things will happen. Do you know what's hilarious? What they accuse others of doing is what they're doing to themselves. Apparently, if you go to Nissan's main website, they collect information from you about your geolocation, where you're driving your car, including if you had sex in your car. Why the fuck does Nissan need to know your gender and sexual orientation, and on top of that, if you had or hadn't had sex in your car? I don't even know how they gather this. I don't fucking care. But like most people, I'm willing to bet they don't even know that this is happening. And you should be able to know if you read the terms of service, right? Like if you read the user license agreement when you buy the car, they probably tell you that they do this. Like, this is not hidden stuff, right? Like, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's on their fucking website. And they're the ones that go around and they say, well, actually, if you take a car to a repair guy, they may take your information. But they're taking your information anyway. Stuff that they don't even fucking need to begin with. Like, fine. What Elon Musk is doing, I kind of get it. I don't really agree with it, but like, okay, so the idea is that they want self-driving cars, all right? So like, they want people who don't know how to drive to be able to have their own vehicle, whatever. Okay, fine. So in order to do that, they need to train the onboard AI. So like, the AI needs to be exposed to many images to see how other people drive cars in order to understand, right? So like, if you buy a Tesla, you can sign in or opt out of this thing, right? So like, if you don't want Tesla to know how to make a self-driving car, you opt out of the test, or you allow them. Now, even with this, there have been controversy because apparently, while indeed the opt-in doesn't collect personal data from you, when you're driving your car into the garage, like the people who have access to the videos, they know now where you live, even though like the car is not supposed to give them the GPS location. Or, they can see street signs. They can see various things. And it turns out that the employees at this company were memeing each other with accidents and car crashes from real events. And this caused a big controversy. Okay, fine. But like, again, like it's opt-in, opt-out. With Nissan, they don't try to create like self-driving cars or anything. Like, why do they need to know when you fuck in your car? How does this improve car manufacturing? How does this, like, create a better Nissan? Right? Like, again, with Elon Musk and Tesla, like, the purpose is to create better cars. So I gotta get it where it's coming from. But with Nissan, it's like, what? Like, create cars where you can fuck better than? Like, it's so bizarre, isn't it? Super sensors? I don't know. You forget this is a black woman from the United States. It's all bullshit data, to be honest. I don't think it's bullshit if they want to collect it. believe it or not, collecting data is actually costly, and it can backfire on a company. Like we saw what happened with Owl Games, which is unfortunately a company that I like. But Owl Games Interactive had this problem. Like they were collecting too much data, and gamers told them to fuck off. And to their credit, within 2 days they fucked off. But there have been other examples where this wasn't the case. So seats that recline all the way. Oh, and you can't do that unless you collect information like how many times people do the ficky in your car. It's vital data. Well, I guess it's vital. Yeah, like it is vital for human reproduction, but not for Nissan. That's why you don't like smart cars. Man, like smart literally means spyware. Everything that's smart means surveillance. I don't think like there is one thing that's smart which doesn't do surveillance. We're talking about electronics, right? Smart cities. It means cities that can track you. It means cameras on every single lamppost. It means measuring when your car was manufactured to give you a carbon tax. Like smart cities means surveillance cities. Big brother cities. They do this with everything. Scary as fuck. Data is insanely valuable on the scale it's being collected today. You know, like, I would genuinely be curious. Like, I would really want to know. If I'm a person that finished university, and someone collects all my data, how much is it worth? Like, if someone were to have access to literally all my data that they can collect from my social media, right? So my likes, my age, my, what grades I got in university, what university I attended to, like all of this stuff, right? If they collect everything, how much is it worth for advertisers? You'd be shocked probably, like how much money you're giving away by allowing these companies to collect data from you. It's probably a lot if all these social media companies are free, right? Because like they wouldn't be free, they would require a tax for you to operate. The forced commercials in smart are there forced commercials in smart cars yet? Mark my words, in the future, you need to pay subscription. So the way I view the future, unironically, like this is genuinely how I view it, is that you go into a car and the car can actually listen in to what you're saying. And if you say anything that's hate speech or anything that they disagree, the car stops. I don't think like the car will stop in the middle of the fucking road, obviously. Like it will just take you to your destination and then it will refuse to turn on again. I mean, we already seen this with Amazon. I know it sounds crazy, but there was like this guy. He had a smart house from Amazon. And apparently a delivery guy filed a complaint that when he delivered the goods, the guy in the house said the N-word to him. So Amazon shut down his subscription. Now, the reason the guy was lucky is because he actually had evidence that no one was at home when the delivery guy said that the N-word was being told to him. So in other words, he couldn't have possibly done it. But like for 3 days, he had his house without lights. He had no way to control the temperature in his house. And many other inconveniences that come from having a smart house. Can you understand just how unimaginably fucked this is? Like, you need to have a subscription. And the thing that shocks me is that this isn't the government forcing people to have. People want this. They legitimately want this. And he had to write to Amazon. He got like an automated response telling him to fuck off. He then escalated it. And they said, okay, we're going to look into it. So like, it's literally guilty until proven innocent. It wasn't even Amazon like asking him, hey, what the fuck, you know, like why is there racismus on your private property? Because we have at Amazon do not allow you to have racismus in your own fucking home. It's insane. Like, honestly, right? So like, all your constitutional rights get to be pissed away if this thing becomes mainstream. If every person will have a smart house, a smart car, or whatever, right? The left calls this locked-in technology. Locked-in technology means that once the technology is there, you can't afford to live without it. Like, imagine living now without a smartphone. It's very difficult. right? Like maybe you can have like a weirdo which does that, but good luck finding a job, good luck talking to customers, good luck talking to clients, good luck doing many things that you require in order to have a smartphone, even getting a date. Like I know women who literally are going to look at your smartphone to see if the screen is cracked, to see if the model is. You may say, well, you don't want these types of women. Well, good for you. I guess you're surrounded by a tsunami of pussy so that you can make the choice. But for most other people, this is important. So, the main issue is that the more you go to smart stuff, the more locked in you are. And the more control and power the corporations have over you. And as we get to see here, the more control and power the government has over corporations, right? Because this goes back to what we were talking about with Elon Musk suing California-nya. Because the moment you have like a couple of companies that are going to have access to even what you say at home, right? Because again, like the conversation was that Amazon was told by a delivery driver with no evidence that he was being called the N-word while at the door of the person. So Amazon shut down the subscription to this person's smart house, which means his cameras, his lights, like a lot of other stuff, his ability to control temperature, and everything else that comes with having a smart house. And I definitely see that in the future, if you don't own your smart car, because maybe like a car is going to be very expensive to purchase, unlike now, and you're going to be forced only to purchase like the latest electric vehicles and, whatever the fuck the government is going to pass then. So not everyone is going to afford a $400,000 car adjusted for inflation. And what most people will probably do is like they're going to rent a car from a company. So you're renting the ability to have a subscription to the car company. And they will listen in to what you're saying, right? So like if they don't like you have some bad some negative things to say about the environment or negative things to say about vaccines or whatever the fuck. You say some racismus. Oh, the car is going to beep and it's going to say hate speech violation. It's not illegal. I mean, you can say it, but like the company also doesn't have to give you the rights to use their services, right? So they're going to drive you all the way until where you need to be driven. And after that subscription terminated, you're never allowed to use them again unless maybe like there is a way that they may allow you to reuse it. Otherwise, no. Right? And you're never going to be able to drive cars again, at least not from that company. And if you're a person that creates a lot of problems like Alex Jones and you get banned from one car, you get banned from all companies, good luck driving. If you happen to go to work somewhere and you need a car, fuck you. I think that's the future. I legitimately think that this is where we're heading. And the more concerning problem isn't that this is the future and this is where we're heading. The most concerning problem is that people embrace it and people enjoy it. Demolition Man wasn't supposed to be a man. Yeah, literally Demolition Man. Like, watch that movie. Yes, like literally. In fact, a little bit more. Like, Demolition Man at this point is becoming outdated. It's becoming history. The present is a little bit above Demolition Man. Like, if Demolition Man had that society for another 50 years, is where we're at. Yeah, except you're not going to get fined for swearing if you're in America. It's just like you may be fired. Which, in my opinion, is worse, but it is what it is. So, anyway, according to this, Assembly Bill was signed into law last year, requires websites to do all of this thing that we talked about. The suit-quoted California Assembly report has said, if social media companies are forced to disclose what they do in this regard, for example, how you moderate online content, it may pressure them to become better corporate citizens by doing more to eliminate hate speech and disinformation. I really hate the expression corporate citizens. It pisses me off so much. It argues that the true intent of the bill is to pressure social media platforms to eliminate certain constitutionally protected content. This is another problem, right? Constitutionally protected content viewed by the state as problematic. Like, if something genuinely is problematic, make it fucking illegal. Oh, you can't because there's a constitution that you hate so much. So now you're using private sector to enforce. It's not even the government, it's the parties. Is the party's will, right? So like, for example, if the Democrats love immigration, it just so happened it's a hate speech to talk against immigration. And the thing is, like, the Democrats literally express why they love immigration. Like, there are so many Democrats that are on air expressing why they want massive, non-stop migration to Texas, is to make Texas purple and then blue. They flat out say it. Like, it's not a hidden agenda, it's not secret or anything like that. They outright say they want as many people to come into Texas in order to make it purple and then blue. When Texas starts deporting people into New York, the mayor of New York freaks the fuck out. And he says that, I am now seeing a problem in New York. Like, no, sorry, he said like this. He said, in my entire life, I have never seen a problem in New York that I didn't think we can face. Now I'm seeing a problem that I do not know how to face, and it's because of one evil man. One evil man. And I'm thinking like, okay, but like, you're not even dealing with the massive migration that goes into Florida or Texas. You're dealing with like a small percentage of it, and you're freaking out. And I think he's freaking out not because New York is becoming what it's becoming. I think they're freaking out because this is a way for Texas and Florida to stop becoming purple. And it's like, okay, well, if all the people come to Florida and they move them to a blue state, like that goes against our agenda. Like, what are we doing here? So now they want to enforce the northern border of Texas. So they can't protect the southern border of Texas. Like that one, nothing can be done. But the northern border, that one is fucking sacred. It is so obvious what they are doing, it's laughable. And obviously they don't care because there's no repercussions. AB 587 was built by lawmakers as a way to combat extremism, hate speech, misinformation online. In other words, things that are legal but they don't like. Governor Newsom office described it as a first of its kind social media transparency measure. However, there have been free speech concerns about the legislation from the beginning. It follows two similar social media regulatory laws in Florida and Texas, though these laws come from the other side of the aisle and aim to prevent social media firms from censoring speech. It is so obvious which one gives a shit about the citizen and which one is afraid about the citizen. Like the people from California-nya are terrified to death by the citizen. Like the idea that two citizens can talk with each other without the government knowing keeps them awake at night. Like Gavin Newsom cannot sleep if they know that your mother and your father have a conversation over the dinner table without some private company listening in. Since Musk took over Twitter, which he subsequently renamed X, the company has been embroiled in a number of legal challenges, both as plaintiffs and... I don't fucking care what Forbes editorialize. I love it. Like, every single fucking time, they just present the news, and then they go, like, tangent. Let me tell you why Musk is bad. This week, Musk threatened to sue the ADL. Yeah. Okay. I already like the man. Stop. I already said I like the man. Stop trying to sell him to me. If I remember, during the Cambridge Analytica scandal, the cost of data was 50 cents per person on Facebook. But more personal data like social security numbers were at $200. Well, first of all, you have to adjust for inflation, right? Because like those prices were from back in the day. But second of all, and this is even more fascinating, is that the Cambridge Analytica data was just voting patterns. Like they didn't try to harvest all data from you. They were just trying to harvest voting patterns and pages you like. But like, if you were to genuinely like harvest everything that is to know about a person, which Facebook obviously has access to much more than what Cambridge Analytica was interested, it would probably go above 50 cents. I'm pretty sure of that. Especially like, oh my god, if you have access... Oh, shit. Like, no, actually, there's two things. If you have access to people's DMs... Like, that is probably worth a lot, especially like if it's a politician or a CEO. And if you have, if you're building AI, this is another thing that's happening. Like all of these AIs that have been made up until now, like ChatGPT and character AI and all of these, they scrap the internet for data. So what they want now is to protect the children in order to prevent AIs from scraping the internet again. Mind-blowing. And allegedly this is because it's like, yeah, but like what if you use an AI to create a realistic picture of a child? In my opinion, I know this is controversial, but I don't see the problem with it because like the problem with the CP is that a real child gets hurt, right? But if you're creating stuff that doesn't hurt children and would basically make this industry to just disappear, because like no one is going to try to break the law to create something that they can go to prison for if you can just use a program that creates the same thing. It's kind of like OnlyFans, right? Like OnlyFans are freaking out because AI can create works of art that are just as good as them, and OnlyFans is being pushed out of the market. It would be the same thing. I still think that people who watch it should be punished, by the way. Like, I still think you should go to prison. But at the same time, like, I'm talking about, like, a person that watches, like, a realistic depiction of a child. Right? Like, that... Whatever. But what I am saying is that you shouldn't prevent the AI from being developed with this argument. Because, like, this line of thinking, I don't see how it can be used to protect kids. Maybe someone can tell me. Like, I'm willing to change my mind, but I would need to hear the argument. No, it's still gross, but they do not stop the CP. Like, that's the problem. I mean, the current state of things is worse. Like, can we agree with that? Like, if you use an actual child to produce the thing, like, that is despicable, right? So, in order for that to happen, you need a person that is willing to break the law, risk going to jail, in order to create some pictures that he probably intends to sell. But, like, if you have an AI that can produce the exact same thing without the person going to prison, then no one is going to abuse children anymore and risk the actual punishment. Do I make sense? Like, I know that what I'm saying is very controversial. I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but that's how I view things. Like, I'm looking at it from a supply and demand point of view. Like, if I'm wrong, let me know. It's just, it is what it is. So people can create the cheese pizza with AI, but it cannot be distributed. No, I'm saying that the AI should be able to exist. Now, whether or not people should go to prison over watching these pictures, or should be put on a watch list, or anything like that, a fine, or, you know, even worse, that should be up to the people to decide. My point is that the AI shouldn't be stopped from existing. That is my... that is naive. Well, maybe it is. Again, like, I don't really have, like, strong opinions over this. Like, this is not the hill I'm willing to die on. Like, if someone disagrees or not. But I generally do not think that a legislation that would prevent the AI from existing, I genuinely do not think that that legislation is to protect children. I think it's to protect the already existing AIs, which have the same ability, is to protect OpenAI, to protect Character AI, to protect Bing, to protect Bard. And the reason to protect them is to make sure that the government can control the small number of AIs that already exist into giving the government power over deciding policy, you know, having this thing called AI safety. You know that Kamala Harris is AI safety czar. And as usual, you know, like, to protect the children is the easiest topic that they can use in order to bully other companies to do whatever they want. So, it is what it is. Make the AI a honey trap. Yeah. Anyway, I do need to prepare for the Archcast because it's starting soon. So thank you for the donations, thank you for the super chats, and if you guys want to see more of me, I'll be on the Archcast in 1 hour and 30 minutes. So I'll